Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. I am Andrew Sumner. This is Matthew Rosenberg. Yes, back again. Always great to see you, mate.
Great to be here as always.
And this time, another subject close to our hearts, the Batman, of course. And we're here to talk specifically about the upcoming collected edition of Detective Comics, Shadows of the Bat, House of Gotham. So what can you tell everybody about it, mate?
First thing I think everyone should know is that it has a very long title. I think people
It really
should really
does.
pay attention to that.
I kept on looking at my phone just to make sure I didn't get miss a word out.
Look, if you asked me, I wouldn't have been able to do it. The Detective Comics, this is from earlier this year. I did a 12-part backup story in Detective with Fernando, Blanco, and Jordie Bellaire on colors. One of the best art teams I've ever had the honor of working with. And while Mariko Tamaki and her team were telling their story in Shadows of the Bat, we wanted to tell a story that was about Gotham at its core, Gotham at the ground level. And the idea of the book is, what is it like to be the person who falls through the cracks? We all know what it's like to be the person who Batman saves or the person who Batman goes after. What's it like to just be that person who's always just out of sight and just out of his reach? And so it's a book that spans the history of Batman from the year one era to the modern era, following the journey of a little boy, our unnamed protagonist, as he comes across as he learns about Gotham from the underbelly. He discovers it and explores it through the underbelly. His parents are killed in a tragic attack by a very bad man in Gotham, and Batman just gets there a little too late to save the kid, and then from there his life just spirals. He ends up in the Martha Wayne orphanage. He ends up in Arkham Asylum, and he's taken under the wing of some of people who are traditionally thought of as the worst of the worst in Gotham. He's taken under the wing of the Penguin and Scarecrow and Clayface and Bane, and all these characters sort of see in him the chance, a kindred spirit, they hope. And this is really the origin story of how someone becomes a villain in Gotham, how they become who Batman hunts instead of who he saves. And this is a boy who's just on the cusp. He's on the line, and it could go either way. And it's his life story, and it's a sad one, and it's a brutal one, but it's also full of heart and hope, and just the idea of examining Batman from a different angle was our goal.
Matt, what were your influences on this book? And the reason I ask you is, I got the sense that there were some overtones of and maybe you see where I'm coming from. There's some elements of like a Bronx Tale about it, of Goodfellas about it. You know, that classic gangster construction.
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously I'm a big fan of that stuff, and just the stories of who of a city and its underbelly and its influence on you, and you get these stories of how people go down the wrong path, and it humanizes them, and it sort of justifies it. And I really wanted to do that from a Gotham point of view. So yeah, I mean, I think the Goodfellas analogy or Bronx Tale or even stuff from like Godfather 2, there's a lot of that in here, because they're villain stories where we care about the villain, really, is what they are. And that, I think, is something that we see Batman stories that are about big cartoonish people with crazy masks and absurd plans, but at one point they were little kids. At one point they were scared, and they were lost, and they were hopeless, and I think that's so compelling. And we talked about doing something like that, taking a character back to his roots and exploring what a young Scarecrow's life is like, or what a young Two-Face is like. But really, I thought there's a real chance to tell a more impactful story of a new character. And so those were huge influences. And then just, you know, obviously stuff like Batman Year One and was a big one, and Long Halloween
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And but really every era of Batman, we tried to touch, you know, we sort of broke down and I mapped out what I think the key eras of Batman, of the modern Batman story are, and we tried to touch on all of those. So there's New 52 Batman stuff in there. There's Nightfall stuff. There's, you know, we're trying to hit every era of Batman and really just like it's a love letter to all of that.
For me personally, this could be projection. This is the beauty, I think, of the Batman form. Is I also felt a bit of Grant and Brayfogle with the kind of grassroots stuff that they did during their run.
Oh, for
So,
sure. Yeah, yeah.
and I think, but I think you work that stuff in beautifully, and I think it's a tremendously satisfying experience, particularly in the collected edition. Everybody's going to read it in.
Yeah, you know, I was very nervous because moving through the eras, it's not easy because the timeline doesn't always line up the way it does for other people, and so we had to say like, how old is this kid? How much time passes between No Man's Land and the New 52? How much time passes between, you know, and just sort of figure out all these eras. And so we were very nervous about it. And then when I finished it, and I think a lot of it has to do with Fernando Blanco and Jordie Bellaire really just creating a character that you become attached to. But when I finished it, I went back and reread it, and I was like, oh no, it's a whole narrative. It's a whole piece that sort of makes sense and is cohesive in a way that I'm really proud of. I think it's a really it was a really challenging story, but I feel really happy with how it turned out. And based on the audience reaction, which was kind of overwhelming, I think a lot of people liked it too, which is always, you know, the goal.
Mate, it is a lovely book, and as somebody who's read just a ridiculous number of Batman issues and read my first one in 1966, I'm here to tell you it's a very satisfying book, and I loved it. And I don't know anybody who doesn't like it.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's such a, you know, it's my first dip into writing detective, which is obviously, you know, there's not a bigger honor in comics in my mind than having your name in the credits of that book. And I wanted to do something that showed that, you know, I understood where we were coming from, and I appreciate it and loved it. And so if that comes across, and sort of the admiration and love for the lore and the character, I feel like I did my job.
No, it really does, mate. And we've been talking about the generationally beautiful and propulsive book with three titles: Detective Comics, Shadows of the Bat. But the important one is House of Gotham. And it's available for pre order in its collected form right here. If you're a Batman fan, you have to check these links out because you'll love it. Great work, mate. And it's always such a pleasure having you on.
It's a pleasure to be here always.
If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.